the thousands of children who have been detained by immigration officials and the growing lawsuits highlighting some of the alarming conditions they face. One lawsuit says a toddler was hospitalized with respiratory failure, then returned to the ICE detention center and allegedly denied prescription medication. Meanwhile, 911 calls describe kids burning with fever, struggling to breathe while in detention, and data shows that in the last couple of years, over 900 kids have been detained for longer than 20 days, which is supposed to be the limit set by the 1997 legal settlement. DHS has dismissed allegations of poor care at these facilities, including the controversial Dilley Center in Texas, saying it was purpose-built to ensure that families in detention are comfortable and have all of their needs cared for. And joining us now is Becky Wolozin. She's a senior attorney at the National Center for Youth Law. Becky, thanks so much for being with us. You've been inside some of these detention centers. You've talked to the kids themselves. What's it like inside, and how long are these kids usually kept there?
Well, the detention centers, to be clear, are a prison. They are a jail. And detaining children is a choice that this government is making, where there are many, many alternatives that are far more humane and actually much more cost-effective as well. And so what these detention centers are like are an enclosed, secure jail or prison where families are kept. They are highly surveilled. There is fully inadequate medical care, and the conditions are one of constant fear and threat for the children that are inside of them. They're held for very long periods of time as well in these horrible conditions. In the Flores Settlement Agreement, which is an agreement that allows me to go in and monitor and talk to children, there is a benchmark of about 20 days that the court has recognized is an amount of time the government can take to process children's cases. But we've seen children held for far longer, including children held for well over 100 days. And so children are having to endure this really stressful and traumatic environment. And that leads to a lot of harm. There's also
I'm so glad you brought up the Flores settlement. If I could just stop you real fast, because it's such an important piece of all of this. You know, for those that are unfamiliar, the Flores settlement, 1985, Jenny Flores, is a massive settlement that kind of became the de facto framework for what used to be the conditions that the government agreed to follow. They were privy, or they were a party to this settlement, and these were the conditions that have gone before Republicans, before Democrats, and they've been upheld by courts. And you said one of them was the 20 days, that the kids should not be held for more than 20 days. There are a lot of other components to the Flores settlement. And the question I have is the Flores settlement still being followed? Like, break this down for simple folks that are trying to wrap their heads around one of the most complex issues, because this is one that I just, as much as I read about it, I still don't understand how legally this is allowed to happen.
Well, a lot of this is not allowed to happen legally, but the Flores Settlement Agreement is a longstanding settlement agreement that essentially establishes very basic humanitarian conditions that the government agrees to uphold if it decides to hold children in its custody. And so what this means is that they have to be in safe, sanitary conditions. They have to be promptly released, if possible. They cannot be held for an indefinite period of time. And there are several other components of it as well. What has developed over the past many years that it has been in effect is that the government has repeatedly tried to exit the settlement agreement without complying with its terms. And so the settlement agreement envisioned that the government would promote its own regulations that would satisfy these basic humanitarian requirements. And to date, they have not done that. They have not promulgated their own regulations that satisfy the basic requirements of what Flores requires for holding children in DHS custody. And so that's why it still applies today.
Is there an accurate number right now of how many kids are in government custody, both unaccompanied and families?
Well, what we know right now is that from when this administration reopened family detention until about December, there were over 2,000 children that had been held in ICE custody. And the most recent information that we have around unaccompanied children who are held in the custody of the Office of Refugee Resettlement is that there are over 2,000 children currently held in ORR custody as well. And those lengths of custody are extraordinarily long. They've ballooned in the past year, and currently children who are detained have been held for more than 200 days, despite the fact that most of them have family members who have tried to sponsor them and bring them home to take care of them. But the government is not releasing these children, although they're mandated to do that by law.
Now, I'm sorry, and just to clarify, 200 days in detention. The Florida settlement says 20 days, and that is in, like, detention centers. Are those 200 days held in detention centers or held in some of those kind of safe homes?
The 200 days are in the Office of Refugee Resettlement shelters. They're sometimes large facilities that hold many children, but they are typically, not all of them, but typically licensed to take care of children.
Becky, really appreciate your time and really appreciate you shedding some light on all of this. Tomorrow,